Hi guys, and welcome to Learning Science the Easy Way. It is your favorite teacher, Kauma Jimwansa. So as we continue to look at salts, in this video, we are going to look at the preparation of salts. As much as we have looked at what a salt is and the types of salts, it is very important to look at how you can prepare the salt. What methods are used in the preparation of salts? So now, the preparation of salts, or the methods that are used in the preparation of salts, depends on the solubility of the salt to be prepared. The solubility of the salt to be prepared. This is what determines the method that you are going to use in preparing the salt, because the salt that you are preparing can either be soluble or insoluble. So the method that you are going to use to prepare a soluble salt will be different from a method that you are going to use to prepare an insoluble salt. Soluble salts are salts that dissolve in water, while insoluble salts don't dissolve. So some of the examples of the soluble salts, we can say sodium, potassium, and as well as the ammonium salts are soluble. We can talk of sodium sulfate, we can talk of sodium phosphate, we can talk of sodium chloride. All the sodium salts are soluble in water. All the potassium salts are soluble in water. All the ammonium salts are soluble. Then another example is that all the nitrate salts, all the nitrate salts are also soluble. All the nitrate salts, sodium nitrate, potassium nitrate, ammonium nitrate, all the nitrate salts are soluble. Another example, we can say all chloride salts except silver chloride and lead to chloride. So when we talk of sodium chloride, it is soluble in water. Potassium chloride, soluble in water. Zinc chloride, soluble in water. So the exception that we have here is silver chloride and lead chloride. Another one is all the sulfates. All the sulfates except lead sulfate, barium sulfate, and calcium sulfate. So these are some of the exceptions. So we are saying soluble salts, these are salts that dissolve in water. And some of the examples that we have all the sodium salts dissolve in water, all the potassium salts dissolve in water, and all the ammonium salts dissolve in water. And at the same time, all the nitrate salts dissolve in water, all the chloride salts dissolve in water except silver chloride and lead to chloride. Then we also have the sulfates dissolve in water except lead sulfate, barium sulfate, and as well as calcium sulfate. We look at some of the examples of the insoluble salts. So here we have one of them is that all the carbonate carbonate salts are insoluble except potassium carbonate, sodium carbonate, and also ammonium carbonate. Then at the same time, all the sulfide salts are insoluble except potassium sulfide, sodium sulfide, and as well as ammonium sulfide. So basically, even when you are preparing a salt, you have to ensure that you understand the nature of the salt that you are preparing, if it is either soluble or insoluble, because that will help you to know the actual method that you're supposed to use when preparing the particular salt. Preparation of insoluble salts. So the insoluble salts are prepared by the method called precipitation method. Precipitation method. So the precipitation method involves the reaction. It involves the reaction of two soluble salts. It involves the reaction of two soluble salts. So in this case, reacting two soluble salts will give you an insoluble salt and a soluble salt. So we are going to have soluble salt reacts with another soluble salt to give us insoluble salt and soluble salt. So under this method, you are supposed to use two soluble salts in order to have an insoluble salt and a soluble salt. So for example, if we are preparing an insoluble salt, which is lead to iodide, soluble salt, lead to iodide, we are preparing this one. So we have to ensure that we have two soluble salts where one soluble salt should contain the cations of the salt to be prepared, then another soluble salt should contain the anion of the salt to be prepared. So in this case, we have one reactant, which is lead nitrate, lead to nitrate, so which is like that. Then we also have another reactant, which is potassium iodide. Potassium iodide. Potassium iodide. So we are going to have that. Now in the reaction, so these are the two reactants. We have lead nitrate, we have potassium iodide. So lead nitrate aqueous reacts with potassium iodide aqueous to give us lead iodide solid and potassium nitrate. Aqueous, and it is very important to ensure that the equation is balanced. So we put a 2 there and a 2 there. So our insoluble salt produced in this reaction is lead iodide. So when you are preparing an insoluble salt, you use the method which is called the precipitation method. And in the precipitation method, you have to react two soluble salts in order to form an insoluble salt and a soluble salt. So we are looking at preparation of a soluble salt. So there are so many ways in which you can prepare a soluble salt, but I will concentrate on the titration method. Titration method. The titration method. So the titration method is a method or a technique that is used to prepare soluble salts of sodium salts, you can say potassium salts, and as well as the ammonium salts. So this method is used to prepare the soluble salts For example, salts of sodium, salts of potassium, and salts of ammonium. Then at the same time, we are saying this method works on the basis of neutralization. So we are saying it works on the basis of neutralization. It works on the basis of neutralization, and under neutralization we have a reaction of acids with an alkali. Acids reacts with an alkali in order to form a salt and water. So titration involves the neutralization reaction where a salt is produced and as well as water is produced. For example, if we have hydrochloric acid reacting with sodium hydroxide, to give us sodium chloride and water. So hydrochloric acid, this is an acid, then sodium hydroxide, that is an alkali. Then we have a salt, which is also known as the table salt, the sodium chloride. Then we have water. So this reaction is a neutralization reaction, and at the same time, titration works on the basis of neutralization, where you react an acid and an alkali in order to form salt and water. We can have another example here. If we have sulfuric acid reacting with potassium hydroxide, and this will give us potassium sulfate and water. Potassium sulfate and and water. So we have to ensure that the equation is balanced. Okay, so even in this reaction, this is the neutralization reaction, where an acid reacts with an alkali in order to form potassium sulfate, which is a salt, and as well as water is given out. So under titration, you have to use an acid and as well as an alkali in order to form a salt and water. So this method, or the titration method, is used in the preparation of soluble salts, and more especially the sodium salts, the potassium salts, and as well as the ammonium salts. I hope you followed through. Thank you for watching.